All right. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back here to Let's Talk Live here on the LTL Media Channel. It is Monday. What month are we in? April. Gosh, it's going so fast. April 7th, 2025. I want to welcome everybody back in to the live show. I'm seeing a lot of people saying in the chat that they're not getting my notifications, which is like weird. You got to make sure that bell notification is turned on. And I ask everybody to do this as well. Join my Facebook page. Just look up LTL Media. I post on there constantly when there's going to be live shows. So if you're not getting my notification, connect with me there. And you can also connect with me on X. I am on X. You can just look me up, LTL Media. And I try to post. I'm trying to get better at posting on Instagram as well, too. I've been trying to build that up. But here we are back again. A rock solid show here we have planned. And we're going to get into a little bit of Karen Reed this evening. And then obviously we're going to talk about Sandra Birchmore and the findings during the Canton audit. And I have a very good expert on her case that I'm going to be bringing in here. You all know Mizzy. She's been on the channel before. We're going to have Lauren join us here in a second too. But I want to just make this announcement that today, April 7th, LTL Media and LTL Studios, LTL Studios has been here 1 year. 1 year today in this building here in Rentham, Massachusetts. And it is like awesome to celebrate that. I never even thought I made 6 months, but we've made it 1 year. 1 year today. And I could not have done that without all of you believing in this channel, coming here night after night when these lives happen and partaking in the content that we have here on this channel. So I am ever so grateful for all of you for supporting me, supporting all the fabulous guests that we have here on this show, and all the content that we try to put out and keep people engaged and, maybe inspire a few people out there, inspire people to do great things. Because I always say this, if you have a dream inside your mind, you can make it happen. You're the only person that can make it happen. You can do it. It's proven examples. If you put the hard work in, it will happen. It will happen. You just have to keep saying it will happen. And, I'm really looking forward to another year here in this building. It's served well. I have a great landlord, property owner. He's such a nice guy. He believes in everything that I do here. And I never would have thought my fucking name is on a marquee. My business name is on a marquee. It's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. But enough about me. Let's bring in my special guest this evening, my once in a while co-host here on the channel. I'm going to bring her in. Lauren, hello.
Hi, Brian. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good tonight. It's Monday, so,
I know everybody has kind of the case of the Mondays, right?
I definitely do.
I definitely do too. But if you didn't catch Lauren in my show, is that proper English? On Sunday, y'all need to go back and replay that because that was a good show. And we had some kind of strange calls during that show.
I do feel like yesterday's calls were a little weird. People would call and say like 3 sentences and then hang up.
And I'm like, all right, you got your point across. You got your point across. Okay. But I don't want to wait. I don't want to let my other guests wait too much longer. Let's bring her in. Mizzy, how are you?
Good. How are you guys?
I'm well. It's good to have you back on the show. It's been a little while.
Thank you.
We have some Sandra Birchmore news that came up in our recent Canton audit. I have to be honest with everybody. When I looked through it, I think I was a little bit duped at first. I was like, all right, yeah, this is the company. Like, these are the guys that you want doing this. And I had a great live show with Todd McGee, but we kept finding as we read through it and went through it was like, wait a minute. They're saying that the Canton PD does all these great things, but then they fail in policy and procedure. And how can you do great things if you're failing in policy and procedure? It just didn't make sense to me. And I kind of get hip to it as I dug into the 206 pages and started to read more about this. And I'm like, I don't know about this. And I know Mizzy is fired up. She's been fired up about this, and we'll go through it this evening. But what I want to do first is kind of catch up a little bit on Karen Reed. I know I've been kind of out of the loop on it. I know we're still in jury selection. I've been working a shit ton lately. But I wanted to bring this up because I saw this article today. Was actually seeing this, and it says Karen Reed asked Supreme Court to block her retrial for murder in the death of Boston police officer boyfriend. And we'll read through a little bit of this here. So it says attorneys for Karen Reed, who was charged with second-degree murder and manslaughter in the death of her police officer boyfriend after a night of drinking, asked the Supreme Court on Monday to delay her Massachusetts retrial until it can take up her appeal. To quote, and I love this too, I was reading this quote because it's one of my favorite movies, to quote Shawshank Redemption, hope is a great thing sometimes, the best of things, so I'll take any chance with the Supreme Court. Reed, who pled not guilty, told reporters. No new jurors were selected on Monday in the Reed case. The second trial in Norfolk Superior Court, 5 men and 5 women have been seated since last week when the jury selection got underway. The court is seeking to seat 16 jurors, including 4 alternates. And I know Lauren and I made our prediction on Sunday. We said, we think the jury is going to be seated by Wednesday or Thursday. I don't know, Lauren. What do you think? Now with no jurors picked today.
Yeah, now I feel like I'm kind of eating my words from Sunday and thinking maybe later in the week, maybe Friday, closer to Friday.
Yeah, this might even spill into next week. I don't know.
Good.
Which is good. I mean, they're kind of slowing. I mean, everybody's like, it's going too fast. But you got to remember last time, I think it was 5 days that the jury was picked in 5 days last time. So we'll read a little bit more here. Let's see. It is almost impossible to find a juror who hasn't at least heard about this case. Legally, Peter Eklund told Boston 25 News. So what we're looking for is jurors who even though they haven't heard of this case, will still say that they can be unbiased. And, it's crazy to think you have that timing of that ID documentary that comes out. Okay. Now you have the timing of the Canton audit that comes out. It's kind of like, what's going on here? I find the timing very funny in all of this. Mizzy, what do you think about the timing of all this kind of released? We're going to do the ID doc and then all of a sudden the Canton audit comes out. What do you think about this?
Yeah, the ID doc, I'm not sure. I think they wanted to get it out before, not Karen's team, but the documentary people wanted to get it out before the trial to, I don't know, create a buzz and that. But I think it was the other portion, the audit. Was planned. That was planned. They wanted it to come out saying, oh, the Canton PD, how they kept repeating, no corruption, no collusion, nothing found, in front before the trial starts.
Yeah. It's almost like when me and Lauren were talking about on Sunday, like this is PR for the Canton PD. That's all this is, to clean up everything that has gone on, everything that they had fault in. And believe me, they fucked up royally. They fucked up royally in John's case. They fucked up royally in Sandra's case.
Yes.
But particularly like John's case, I mean, those, like Todd was saying, those first crucial moments that you're there on scene, that's it. That starts the investigation. And if you fuck that up, there's no going back. You only get one chance at it.
Yeah.
So it's really wild. So let me just pull this up. So again, still awaiting to seat jurors. I want to talk a little bit about this article. I know everybody was swarming about this today. I know Renee Rose, there was a photo of Renee Rose that got, I guess, replaced with this stock photo or this photo here. And, look at this. I'm not going to read through all this, but this is all I have to say about these reporters. Okay. Look at, the way that they have treated what I'm saying is the mainstream media, the local mainstream media, the national media. The way that they have treated Karen Reed in this case. Okay. And that's why I love that you all go to your respective YouTube channels and get that unfiltered media, the independent media, without an agenda, without any filter on us or editor. You come here and get your news. And listen, stop fucking talking to these people, because these are shithead reporters that are just looking to spin things and work up every angle that they can, get everybody angry. I don't even believe 90% of what I read inside this article.
Did this come out today?
This came
I
out.
think it did.
Yeah, this came out today.
I remember
wonder that's a coincidence with Turtle Boy was talking about this last night.
Yeah.
He was talking about people who have like flopped from from free Karen Reed to anti, and how a lot of them who leave are mad at him, and it's kind of funny that this article comes out today. Then
I find the things of all these things, the timing of it is extremely funny. And look, stop talking to these fucking people. They have no best interest in it. If you need to talk someone, find one of us out on the street, get your point across, we'll talk about it. But stop giving these mainstream media people just, tidbits to write these stupid articles. It does nothing good for the movement. It doesn't do anything good. That's why I never talked to any of these journalists. They came up to me all during the first trial. Oh, we heard about you. Would you like to say something? I gave one interview, and the girl was like phenomenal. She took my quotes literally word for word, didn't change anything, and didn't paint this narrative about we're out there to destroy things and we're bad people. It was like a really great article. Just don't respond to these people. They pop into chats and they go, "Hi, I'm a reporter on the Boston Herald, and we're looking for people to get in, talk about the Karen Reed case." Stop. Just don't talk to any of them. It doesn't do any good. So I don't know.
I think it's different if the reporter. Like, there's a couple reporters at Boston 10 that I have a relationship with. Or like Laura Grimaldi from Boston Globe.
Right.
She's a Sandra supporter. So I know all she wants to do is put out news to get justice for Sandra.
Right.
You can tell if it's a reporter. Like, I think Ted Daniel, he might be somebody to talk to. But if it's just some random reporter that you've never heard of, it doesn't help Karen. It doesn't help her at all.
What was I going to say? Yeah, I've had great luck with ABC 10. They came out and did that story when we talked about Enrique. They gave it great positive light in there. Here's a quick funny story. The last hearing I was at, I was walking with Nan Gallagher, and we were actually walking by the Deeds building, going to the parking lot. She was getting ready to get in her car, get my car. We were leaving. Ted Daniel was in front of us. And I said to him, I go, "Ted," I go, "great interview with Karen." That part inside, I was kind of talking over his shoulder, he's like walking, he's kind of walking fast. I said, "Ted, that interview with Karen, especially part 2 in the SUV, you nailed it. Like, you did such a great job." And I'm not kidding you. He turned around, he said, "You've been doing a great job too." And I was like, whoa. And Nan kind of looked at me and I looked at her. I was like, oh, he kind of like, he knows who I am. But no, I just said, it was really great. And I think, you brought some like a human touch to her. Instead of all these photos, if you look at all the photos they take of Karen, it's always like the photo when she's like turning her head. They try to make her look crazy. They want people to click on their articles. It's stupid.
Yeah. Well, this reporter for the article that just came out specifically posted on the Justice page last week or two, looking for people that flipped, and that caused a whole thing. It was a crazy response, and then it got deleted and moved over to X. Like, that is absolutely not a reporter that you should be talking to. Like, so
exactly.
Crazy. Yeah.
And Scott says sometimes, Scott says, sometimes I talk to reporters is very cautiously because I view them all with disdain and distrust. It's true. It's true. I agree. And Uncle Fredo says never talk with Channel 5.
No.
Yeah, like I said, I've built a rapport with some reporters. Like I said, one Boston Globe, Laura Grimaldi, but she's like invested so much time into Sandra. I know we can trust her if we say, "Hey, this is between us, off the record." We know we can trust her with stuff. Yeah. And like I said, there's a couple people at Boston 10 I've spoken to and I feel comfortable with, but some people you just like, we've been burned by a couple reporters where like they told us the story was going to be one thing, and then like made up something about my coming into Sandra's case.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what the hell? I was like, that's not even my story.
Yeah.
And it was a big mess. So, we're a little more cautious with.
Yeah, I mean, and you even look at like Aiden. Aiden doesn't talk to mainstream media, and look at all the shit that he just went through with like that podcast and stuff. Like the guy totally flipping around on him and turning that whole podcast into a fiasco. That's why he just doesn't do it. He just gets on his platform and just says everything he needs to say, or he writes it on his website. So, I mean, I always fear caution when I always see a reporter drop in and like, hi, I'm a reporter with whatever, ABC News, and I'm looking for a story, and I'm like, just be careful. Be careful.
Yeah.
All right, let's transition into Sandra Birchmore. I'm going to give Mizzy the floor here for a couple minutes just to give some background on Sandra's case if you're new here or you watch this back on replay. So Mizzy, tell us a little bit about Sandra and her case.
Yeah, Sandra was born in Boston, and she grew up most of her life in Stoughton. Her mom was a single mom. Sandra did have it rough sometimes. Her mom had a lot of health issues, so Sandra helped take care of her. So she kind of grew up fast in that aspect of her life. She went through the Stoughton school system, and at the age of 12, she joined the Police Explorers Club at the Stoughton Police Department. She was kind of on the wait list, but was still there. And then at the age of 13, that's when she was fully involved in the program. And that's where she met Matthew Farwell, William Farwell, and their fearless leader, Robert Devine. Pretty much right from the beginning, she was started being groomed by these men, especially Matthew Farwell, and he fostered a relationship with her over time, gained her trust, and at the age of 15, he statutory raped her, and their sexual relationship continued till she was 23, when Matthew Farwell crept into her apartment on February 1st, 2021, and ended up murdering her and staging the scene to make it look like she committed suicide.
Mm-hmm.
He hung her in a seated position to her closet door handle and made it look like she hung herself. And he was there for about 29 minutes, and he left. And he was caught on video coming in and out. And one of the funny things about the video is her cousin Barb really pointed this out to me. I noticed it, but it really took her saying it out loud to me. When he walks in, he's all hunched down, but when he leaves, he's upright. He's got a little pep in his step, and he zooms out of there. So if you look at the differences of how he walks in and leaves, it's night and day. The Canton Police Department were called to do a wellness check on February 4th, and they found Sandra's body. And there were 3 patrolmen who came, and then they called Sergeant Lank to the scene and Detective McCourt to the scene, and then they called the Massachusetts State Police because it was an unattended death. So the Massachusetts State Police takes over those type of cases, and they investigated her case. But from the get-go, the Canton Police Department are the ones who set the narrative of it being suicide. They are the ones who, when they called Massachusetts State Police, they said it was a suicide. When they reported it up the chain, they said it was a suicide. When Sandra's aunt called the Canton Police Department and was told by Officer Nix, who was a piece of shit for telling her aunt this way. I don't know his exact words because I don't have the recording, but I have heard it. Mm-hmm. But to paraphrase, yeah, Sandra's dead and she killed herself. And I'm saying it nicer than he did.
Sure.
And the way he told her was very ignorant, and no family member should ever find out that way. And they investigated with the Massachusetts State Police for a couple days. They ended up finding that video that you just brought up that I was speaking about earlier.
I want to play it for everybody in a second here.
Yeah. And then they went up to her apartment with the Massachusetts State Police and investigate her apartment again. We don't know what happened. They were never clear on that, but and then the Canton police were pretty much relieved of duty. Everything shifted to Massachusetts State Police. But when people say that the Canton police didn't have much to do with this case, they, like I said, they were the one who set the narrative. They're the ones who got the ball rolling of it being a suicide. And that's unforgivable. So,
yeah, it's like, the thing is, in the initial report, and I'm sure that you've seen them, it was just ruled a suicide. It wasn't like an alleged suicide. And like, who are you to make that determination? Like, wouldn't the medical examiner usually make those decisions? So that was a little weird. And then obviously, as we dug in, which was fucking crazy. I mean, these are all initial reports of the connection of Farwell and Sandra, and you're seeing the text messages that were pulled. It was like, what, over 30,000 text messages between them, and it was all, a lot of very sexual things. I mean, he was into some really crazy, dirty stuff.
Yeah.
And they didn't go after this guy. Like,
yeah, it's the fact that they swept it under the rug and said it was a suicide. She was crazy. She had mental health issues, and she killed herself because he came and broke up with her. And that was the farthest from it. She was happy. She was excited to have a baby. Oh, I think I left that out. In late December of 2020, she became pregnant with Matthew Farwell's baby. Mm-hmm. And there is and he wasn't really happy about it. He did not want to have this child because he knew he was going to be tied to it. He knew that was evidence against him. Mm-hmm. And about 2 weeks before she was murdered, a friend of hers called the Stoughton Police Department. Yeah. And this call was pivotal in what happened to Sandra. Her friend called because Sandra owed her money and she wasn't paying her back, and she was angry. And she told the person who answered the phone that, Sandra hasn't been paying her back and I want my money back. And the officer said, hey, listen, that's a civil case. We can't do anything about it. And she said, well, tell Matthew Farwell that his girlfriend, Sandra Birchmore, needs to pay me back my money. And that officer told Matthew Farwell, and he flipped his shit. And from then on, like, he called her, he flipped out on her, saying stuff like, who else have you told? What other bombs are about to drop? And you could see it in their text messages. What are the, who else, what other friends did you tell? And you could tell he was just losing it. And, the FBI basically said he was starting a spiral, and that's when he started plotting to kill Sandra. And Sandra, thankfully, was telling people Sandra was a very, very smart person. One of her family members told me, Sandra used to drive him crazy because she was so smart. And he admitted she was smarter than him. And it always irritated him because Sandra would always have the upper hand when they argued or got to, not argue, but, you debate with family members. She would always get a goat because, she was such a smart girl. But the grooming, she was so intelligent, but also because of the grooming, she was emotionally young. And so, but she was so smart. She started texting friends and telling them, you know, he's being real nice to me. Like, because they had a couple altercations leading up to that phone call. You know, he pushed her once, he put her in a headlock. And, you know, so he was already starting to escalate. And then this just set him over the edge. So she's like, he's being really nice to me. And then she's like, it was really weird. He was looking at my closet door and he went in my bathroom and was like investigating my bathroom. It was really weird. And she just couldn't put her finger on it, but she thankfully said, this is weird. So at least that was evidence that she was noticing a change in him. And that's where it, you know, ended up going into what he did.
Yeah, it was weird because Lauren and I were talking about this on our Sunday show, you know, about the statistics on pregnant women unaliving themselves. I mean, it's almost never, because the mother is so connected with the baby.
Yeah.
And then another thing that's just a super red flag to me was when I found out, when I read through this and started to talk to you, the way that they found Sandra with this ligature knot around her neck and then using a doorknob. I mean, you barely ever see that. Usually people will go to a closet and they're using a belt or something like that. And
a door jamb or the pole in the closet, not the door handle. Like, it makes to be, she was seated. The type of hanging it was a pressure hanging, the kind of hanging you would see more in like the prison setting, because they don't have other means to do that. Usually you have to be a little bit off the ground. You can't be in a fully seated position, because otherwise you have to fully just keep leaning forward. And that's hard. It's hard to, like, prisoners, I'm sure Scott can tell you stories about it. You know, sometimes they put powder on the floor, or they'll put lotion on the floor, so they can't stop it. It makes the floor slippery. So for a 23-year-old girl, and I say girl just because of her, she was so smart, but she was still young. She was starting to grow up though. She had other means. She had tons of medication in her apartment that she could have done it with if she had done it. It just makes no sense of how she did it. Supposedly done it.
And before I get thoughts on, I want to go to Lauren here in a second, but you know, I think that's how they found Aaron Hernandez, with like one of those pressure, like ligatures around his neck. I think that's how he took his life. And Mizzy Media in the chat, good to see you, buddy. Believe me, you are well missed on this platform. Believe me, I hear it every single day. A great friend of mine, been to the studio multiple times. We have such a great time when he comes down and hangs out. Says, God bless you, Mizzy. That's all I've got to say. You've been an absolute frontline warrior for Sandra. And he says, speaking of frontline warriors, he said Scott McGinnis. Yeah, Scott is out there as well too. Let me just get this in. Marianne, thank you so much for becoming a YouTube member. I appreciate that. Let me jump up to Lauren for comments. So Lauren,
can you hold on a second? Thank you, Mazza. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Lauren, when we talked about this on Sunday, I mean, you know, pregnant women and the way this ligature, it didn't make sense to you either. I mean, you were just like, nope.
No, the statistics of pregnant women committing suicide are very, very low. I think, Mizzy, you commented saying like less than 1% or something.
Yeah.
And you know, you gave me new information about how, you know, there were other methods of choice that she could have taken in the apartment if she had, you know, truly made that decision, which we know she didn't. It just, all these little things don't add up. You know, it really sticks out to me that she had like laundry in the wash, and that she had made a photo shoot for like maternity photos. You know, she would, even though the situation wasn't ideal, she was excited for the baby, you know, and it doesn't seem like Michael not wanting to be involved would have really swayed her decision. You know what I mean? She wanted this baby. She was looking forward to the future. So it just, none of it makes sense. None of it makes sense.
So I'm a quick Google search here. again,
Mhm.
this is a quick Google search, says findings that show over an 18-year period, 20,421 pregnant people died. Of that, 11%, 2,200 of deaths were due to homicide and suicide. More specifically, 61%, that's about 1,400 of those deaths resulted in homicide, and 39%, less than 900 were result of death by suicide. Such a low number.
I think
It's
the number one leading cause of death of pregnant women is homicide. I
I
do
believe
believe
it.
that's true.
It used to be, it changed like something else, but homicide was second. But if for the longest time, homicide was the
Wow.
largest.
It's way more likely that Sandra was murdered than she took her own
Yes.
life.
Yeah. And then when you see video evidence like this, you're like, yeah. I mean, I said to Mizzy the first time we talked about this and she showed me this video, she sent it to me. We hadn't even done a live show yet together. She was just kind of cluing me in, giving me the case files and the information that she had. And she sent me this video and I looked. And the first thing I said to her, I go, oh my God, he looked at the camera. Like he was looking for where the camera was. And then I just said, he ran out of that apartment when he ducked out. LA says, a member for 8 months. Thanks for supporting me here in LTL. It says, number one killer in a pregnant woman is murder, usually by their baby's dad.
Yeah.
Yep. 100%.
Before you push play, I want to tell you guys something because I've been to the apartment now.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it's a little bit different when you're there and it's an eerie feeling. But when you go up to her floor and you get off the elevator, I went there with microdots.
Wow.
And we walked off the elevator. We turned. There's like, if you get off the elevator, straight ahead of you is like a utility closet.
Yeah.
And then you turn left and then there's a hallway.
Yeah.
So we stepped into we're looking at the numbers on the hallway and we're looking and I'm like,
yeah,
looking and we couldn't find her number. And I'm like, we were both like looking at each other like, what the F? And we just happened to turn around and her apartment is, when you come off the elevator and you see that door, hers is right there. There's a wall when you come off the elevator.
Yeah.
Her apartment's right there on the right. So she is removed from all the other apartments.
Ah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And it's like him and Microdots and Farwell are the same height.
Yeah.
So I said, how many steps does it take for you to go from the elevator to there? And it was like 3, maybe 3.5 steps. He was like, boom, at the apartment door. And the closest apartment across from her, I believe the person moved out because we just happened to have the person who moved in after Sandra was murdered.
Sure.
So the closest apartment to her, I believe, was vacant. And she moved, the woman moved in that we ended up talking to. We were like, were you here? Did you live here? She's like, no, I moved in right after. And I'm pissed. They didn't tell me. They didn't tell us anything happened there.
Yeah.
And that just where her apartment is located. And because it's a utility closet and across from the elevator, it's a snowstorm. Most people aren't out and about at like 9 o'clock.
Sure.
They ended up getting a foot of snow. So most people are like at that point were probably in their apartments, getting all snugly cozied up because it was snowing. And so even that, just where her apartment's located, it kind of ties it, it's just more that nobody would have heard her even if she screamed, somebody might hear her, but they might not hear the struggle. They might not hear them talking loud or her yelling. If she did a really loud scream, they might hear it, but they might not because of that utility closet.
Yeah. Scott McGinnis says, but for people to see why Farwell was not arrested is to see the big picture of corruption in Massachusetts. Some people don't get it. And people that aren't familiar, so much familiar with Sandra's case, there are a lot of officers that are involved in this case that are also involved in the Karen Reed case. Was it Garino that did the extraction off the cell phones? Can you talk a little about that, Mizzy? And then we'll go to the video. I want to show everybody the video.
Yeah, Nicholas Garino did the extraction, but Lieutenant Fanning, I don't know if he was Sergeant Fanning then or if he's Lieutenant.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one who looked at the data, and he
And
says
they knew
in a
about
report,
it. They knew everything.
I analyzed the data on her computer. He's the one who went through her computer. He did the extraction on Garino did the extraction on Matthew Farwell's phone. Matthew Farwell told them that they deleted everything. He deleted everything off his phone, her existence, and they couldn't find anything. And they had her computer, and her computer was had everything backed up to it. So they had all the message, like 32,000 plus messages from him. There was 50,000 messages between the three of them. Matthew Farwell, William Farwell, and Robert Devine. That's a lot of freaking text messages. And I believe it was only over like a year.
It's a lot.
And just over a year. That's not a lot of time for that many messages.
Yeah, I could be wrong on that, but I believe they only had like a year's worth of text messages.
So Zelda Bot's asking, did Farwell find the apartment for Sandra to rent?
I don't know if he found it for her. It's very possible he did, but he did help her move into that apartment.
Oh, wow.
And the maintenance man informed the police of that.
Barbara says Sandra has an iPhone, iPad, and MacBook.
Yep.
Yeah, so you have all those connecting entities if you're on the cloud.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. 30,000, 50,000. So what is the update now on the other brother Farwell and Devine? Are they being held responsible as well? Are they being federally investigated? It's so fucking
I don't know if they're being investigated because the FBI is still investigating Sandra's case.
So what I want to do is I want to just look into the camera here for a second, okay? And I know that maybe someone here is watching this show, okay? If you are a victim of any three of these animals, please call the FBI. It's okay to speak up. They will help you, and you can remain anonymous through this whole thing. But we need to get these other two animals off the street because abuse doesn't stop. They stop for a while, and then they will find another angle to start doing this again. So please, if you're watching the show, I just urge anybody, go to the feds, call the FBI. Let's get these other two guys. If they have abused anybody else, and believe me, we know they have. If you're a victim of them, please call and get these animals behind bars.
And if you don't feel comfortable, if you're too scared to go to the FBI, reach out to me.
Yeah.
You can reach me on the Justice for Sandra Birchmore Facebook page or the Justice for Sandra Birchmore. We have a website for her, but Facebook is the best place to reach out to me. I have two names on there. A Mixed Girl in a Mixed Up World for my page, and Melissa Berry. Either one, message me, and I can talk to you and talk you through how to navigate, and I can get you to the right people.
Yeah. So someone's saying, Barbara says, William has been decommissioned by Post, as well as Matthew. Robert Devine is still undergoing post hearings. Okay. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, there was a lot of delays in his hearings. That's correct. But I don't care about that shit. I want these guys criminally charged. I want them picked up off the streets and criminally charged. Go ahead, Mizzy.
It's very important, though, that Robert Devine gets decommissioned. Yeah. Because he could still, like, if he doesn't lose it, from the post commission, he can become a police officer again.
Yeah, you can transfer somewhere else.
I don't know if he would necessarily want to. Both of the Farwells are with their wives still, as far as I know. As far as I know, Matthew and his wife are still together. I don't talk to her. She did reach out to me once. Wow. But Robert Devine, when you're a police officer and you're retired, you can do detail work to make extra money.
You can.
So he could do detail work and be making money as a police officer. And we want him. I mean, it's a first step, and I know the family really wants him to lose his license. It's a first step in some accountability for him.
Right.
It's a small sliver of accountability, but it's a first step. I mean, obviously, I want these two both behind bars for what they did.
Yeah, they all need to go.
William's still in the National Guard out in Arizona. He lives in New Mexico, but he's in the Air National Guard in Arizona because he's a bomb tech, so he's highly sought after in the military.
It's crazy.
You know, so the FBI is hopefully investigating all that stuff, especially whatever William Farrell was up to, because it looks like he was trafficking her. He was introducing her to other men. He was making her send him photos and videos of her sexual activities with these men.
It's literally one of probably is the worst grooming story that I've ever heard about. It's insane when you read through the file how crazy this is, and how so many people knew about this and hid it, and then literally had to get to a level of getting a second autopsy by the wonderful, world-renowned Dr. Bowden to step in and say, yeah, no, this wasn't a suicide, it was a homicide. And that finally opened up this federal investigation and put this one of the evil pricks behind bars right now. So, you know, we have work to do to get these other two there. Let's play this video. There's obviously no sound because it is security. Mizzy, if you want to narrate this, please do.
Okay. Sandra got some food delivered here, and then she goes back upstairs for a little while. People have wondered if that was Matthew Farrell. No, that's not Matthew. She was just getting a delivery. She goes out to her car. I don't know if she cleaned her car off at this point, but she comes back in and you'll see her with a snow brush. I believe she was bringing it in just because she was afraid, because it was going to be such a huge storm. You know, sometimes when you get nor'easters, it's hard. Your doors freeze. So she probably wanted to bring it in, so in the morning she could just go out and clean her car off.
And keep in mind, she's pregnant here. I want everybody to keep that in mind.
And this is the last time she's seen on camera. I believe, I can't read the what it says on the thing. I believe it's about
1746 is the time.
Yeah, it's 14 minutes fast. So, and that's the last time.
You grab her phone. She's texting there.
Yeah.
As she goes into the elevator, you can see she's got her phone and she is texting.
And she always had her phone in her hand.
Yeah, and this is Farwell.
Watch how he walks in. He's hunched down, trying to hide who he is.
Come on, bro.
Mask on. He's was an anti-mask wearer. He only wore it when he was working because they had to wear masks. He has his hood up, hat on, you know, hands in his pockets. He's hunched over, trying to make himself look smaller. He's 6'4".
Yeah, wow. It's ridiculous. He's massive guy.
And she was 4'10".
Really? Wow. Yeah.
So how long is the time in between he goes up? It's like 20 minutes?
About 28 minutes.
Yeah. I'm going to see him leave, and he
Look
looks
how he
at
is. He's
the
like
camera.
Standing up straight, not hunched down anymore.
He's bolting out of there.
Yep. And you can see in the background, there's a bunch of snow in the background.
Right there, he looked at the camera.
Looked at the camera, pep in his step.
And he's
Barb
running.
said to me, yes, you can see the snow back there. Barb said to me, and I had thought it, but like, you know, sometimes when somebody says something to you, it really finally comes out of your head. You're like, yeah, good point. He was kind of like, woo, you know, it's done.
And he left and went to the hospital, right? Because his wife was giving birth. His wife was
in the hospital, getting ready to have their baby. She had a C-section planned for the next day. So he used the hospital as part of a semi-alibi. You know, I'm not out here murdering people. I'm going to visit my wife, ready to have a kid. And there's a photo of him holding his baby. It is so creepy. His eyes are so dead. And it's just the creepiest picture.
All right, let's get into this audit. I'm going to share my screen. Obviously, the audit just kind of breaks down Sandra's case file, but there's something in here that kind of made Mizzy flip, and I wanted to opine on this. And I think the recommendations and then the final kind of pissed me off as well, too. But we're going to pay attention to this little italics area here. Let me increase my screen so everybody can see and read it. I'm going to zoom in. And so I'll read it for everybody, and then we can take it. It says, note, after a lengthy federal investigation, Matthew Farwell was indicted by a federal grand jury in Boston on August 27, 2024. Mr. Farwell is accused of killing Sandra Birchmore on February 1st, 2021 in Canton, Massachusetts by strangulation to prevent her from providing information to law enforcement regarding potential federal crime. Take it away, Mizzy.
Well, first of all, let me just read that. By federal grand jury, Boston, August 29th, Matthew Farwell is accused of killing. Does it say he was arrested, or they just said it's grand jury? I can't read it.
You want me to read the italics again?
Yeah, just read the part where it says the very after where it says Matthew Farwell was
investigation. Matthew Farwell was indicted by a federal grand jury in Boston on August 27, 2024.
Okay, because he was arrested on the 28th. I just want to make sure that those both weren't wrong. That last part of it where they say for a federal crimes, no, those were state crimes.
Yeah.
That Michael Morrissey and, Trooper Fanning and Trooper Dunn should have arrested Matthew Farwell for 3.5 years earlier.
Mm-hmm.
That line, because I reread it this afternoon just so I could go over it so we could talk about it. And I was like, what the fuck? Yes, it is a federal crime to murder a witness. And that's how they had to arrest him. They don't do like straight up murders. I mean, they do arrest people for murder, but they usually come with this. It has to have a special circumstance.
Mm-hmm.
And Sandra's case, he wasn't arrested for straight up murder. He was arrested for murdering a witness against him. That's how they had to get him. And they even said in their press conference that they were handing all their findings over to the Norfolk DA's office to see if state charges could be applied. He should have been arrested by Morrissey and the Massachusetts State Police. There should have been charges filed for him. And it's ridiculous. It's utterly ridiculous that they had the gall to say that in this. It was trying to take away their culpability in this freaking case. Oh, it's that those are federal charges. No, they should have been state charges a long time ago. I hope people realize 3.5 years. This animal, and I was happy. I smiled inside when you called him an animal earlier, because I call him an animal a lot. This animal was on the street for 3.5 years. How many other people did he hurt?
Yeah. And how many kids does he have now? 2?
He has 3.
Yeah. Well, how do we know? Look at abusers tend to abuse.
We don't know. We don't know who else he hurt.
Yeah.
We already know he doesn't mind statutory raping young girls and grooming them. Are there other people he was grooming while he was still on the streets? We already know that he doesn't mind murdering people.
Yeah.
And they left this piece of shit on the streets.
Yeah, I mean, thank God that eventually now, he's been picked up. But I mean, to your credit, look at all the other destruction that he could have done in 3 years. And we don't know. He could have been doing other things. He could have been involved in other things.
I know for a fact he hurt another girl.
Yeah, abusers tend to keep abusing. It doesn't stop. They may suppress it for a little while, but it comes back up again.
And that's all I could say about it. But
Yeah.
That's one that I know of.
Yeah. There's probably more.
Yeah, there probably is.
The Massachusetts State Police knew about this person.
They all knew about it. They all hit it. They all covered for each other. You know, we know the gig here. Let's read the recommendations from 5 kidney stones. Pursuant to the Canton PD policy and here we go. Policy and procedures again. Okay. I love this too. When we were talking about this on Sunday, the great breakdown of how Chief Rafferty is such a great leader and that she holds the community well. She's got her own fucking officers in her department that are saying that they don't have confidence in her. She has the community saying they don't have confidence. So it was like you read this audit and it's so wishy-washy and back and forth. And it's like, I get it. Now that I've learned more about the people that have done this, and we're finding, even here in the public meeting, one of the guys that stands up and forgive me is the slender of the guy. Come to find out, he was a Providence police officer, so he's got local connections here. He probably knows fucking some of these people, and then you find out they do have law enforcement connections. I thought that this was just a completely outside entity company that didn't have, it was just the impression that I had that it was going to be just like a group of analysts that come in and that's their job. They just analyze. But no, a lot of these companies are retired law enforcement or retired FBI agents or whatever, and they may have connections to the local area. It's crazy.
Before you continue reading it, I went to the meeting that they had when they did their interview.
Yeah.
Because it was a public meeting. And one of the things that I noticed, people have told me his name is Dr. Muse. He's the one who always sits next to Bob McCarthy in the meetings. He was very, very chummy with these guys. Like he was talking to them for a long time, and it seems like just me observing, like he might have known them. I don't know. I don't have any proof that he did, but they were very, very chummy, and that made me have a few concerns. And I went out and spoke to these men, and I said, I'm not. If you get hired, I'm not trying to influence you guys either way. And I said, but the town of Canton needs you guys, if you get hired, to step up and do a good job. I said, this community is hurting and they need whatever firm comes in to do the job to do a good job.
Yeah.
The community has they don't have any trust in their police anymore. The community are at each other's throats. I said, this community needs to heal. So whatever firm comes in here, we need you to do good job. And they would if they did.
Yeah. And Grave Concern says, I feel like there were bribes going on. I mean, it very well might have happened. I mean, I don't know, but I'm going to tell you right now, from the way that they talk about Rafferty in this, I can guarantee you she was looking over their shoulder every time they were writing something or confirming something. And I didn't like the fact that what was the thing that I was really bothered by? It was like all the social media stuff they threw in there. Like, what does that have to do with anything that's going on in this police department? Your prime objective of 5 kidney stones was to come in and just look at policy and procedure, but they threw in all this other crap that I just seemed like it was like PR to clean up the Canton PD.
Talking about the influencers and like how they affected the morale of the Canton PD, and that none of that should have ever been included because that has nothing to do with policies and procedures, and how they asked the Canton PD their opinion of their public perception, but they didn't ask the public's opinion of the Canton PD. It was a one-way street.
And I just felt like that was like, and I just said, we were talking about it, I said, it's like PR. It's like, let's
Yeah,
clean up
it
the
is.
Canton PD. And that has
Mhm.
nothing to do with what their job was to go in and do. Like they were going, look into policy and procedures. Is the structure of the police department well? Are they responding to calls in a certain amount of time? Is there any failure within the ranks? Let's look at the investigations of these 3 important cases that have been, pointed out over the years in Canton. That was supposed to be their main objective, and then give those recommendations and clean things up. Are they properly handling evidence? Are they properly handling rape cases? And they give a list of everything. But then when I saw that, I was just kind of like, it's a little weird here. Let me talk about the recommendations. Let's see. Gary says, thank you, Gary, for the $10. Says, this is why Canton needs Susan Harrington for select board and a new chief of police. Amen. I love that you got that in there. Yes, I agree. Yeah. And let's get this select board flipped. Let's get all these people out that have been there for a long time.
Because isn't also next year, isn't Albert up?
Yes, and then Morrissey's up in 2026. And if anybody wants to see a candidate that is running against him, you can look on my channel, find the live stream with Juna Perkins, and you can watch that live stream. I was so sick the day that she came in here. I was like, literally came down with the flu like immediately after I left. I was so sick that day. Anyway, but let's. And I did the interview anyway, and you can see I was dying during that interview. I was like, I need to go. Recommendations pursuant to Canton PD policy and procedures. Here we go. Officers should digitally photograph all crime scenes and sketch the scene. Yeah, pretty critical point here in an investigation. The audit team reviewed the Canton PD police report prepared by the detective who wrote that Sandra Birchmore died of a suicide. We recommend death investigation reports be reviewed by the chief of the investigating division and be approved prior to being finalized. That's like such a critical mistake that there's no coming back from that. Like no. You don't come back from that. As stated above, the Canton PD should remain involved in death investigations that occur within the town of Canton. Ladies, I will give you the floor here for a second to comment. I'm going to go to Lauren first.
I mean, I don't know. What can you say? It's the audit was a joke, and the investigation into Sandra and Karen were jokes. And it's just, at this point, the entire state of Massachusetts just needs a massive overhaul. I mean, what else can you say?
Do we start to get some, do we get vindication in these cases if Karen Reed is acquitted, and then we can start really looking for, justice for John and really getting this? I don't like this. Like, I don't like anything that this brought to any of this. Like, I look at John's file on this audit. It's just bullshit. And they're like, oh, they botched all this, and they should have taken digital photographs, and they should have sketched the scene, and they should have all this proper equipment, and they should have collected evidence this way. But given what literally the language is in John's investigation, given the circumstances, they really did the best job they could do. No, that's a dead, dying Boston police officer on a Boston police officer's front lawn. You don't secure the crime scene. You're letting people walk all through. You're not taking proper evidence. You're not collecting proper photographs. Oh, and by the way, potential witnesses, you're allowing them to walk off and just go inside the house that this dead police officer is laying on the front lawn of this house. No, it just doesn't sit well with me.
No,
it doesn't sit well.
The fact that they left the crime scene unsecured is a huge red flag. I mean, that kind of just calls into question all of the evidence, like completely. Like, if there was no integrity. So all of the evidence that they collected is tainted, as far as I'm concerned, if this crime scene wasn't secured. And the fact that they were so quick to determine that Sandra was a suicide, and the fact that the police station had gotten the call a couple weeks beforehand from the friend that was upset with Sandra. I mean, we know the corruption runs deep. I get the feeling that they probably knew that it wasn't a suicide, and they wanted to get that on the record as quickly as possible. It's an atrocity.
It's towing the blue line is what it is, Lauren. It's towing that blue line. Stand up, stand behind all of your brothers. They all stick together.
Yep.
They do it.
Yep.
They all stick together.
Stick up for each other and have each other's backs, even when they're wrong.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. For me, it's bullshit that these guys in this report are talking out both sides of their mouth.
Yeah.
They're pointing out inconsistencies and wrongdoing, but it's fluff. This report was all fluff. It's BS. What happened? It's like with Sandra's case, they couldn't even agree with what the ligature was. You had one officer say it was a string or a rope or a strap or a belt. That's one officer. Another officer said it was a scarf. Another officer got it right. He said it was a black strap. And Lieutenant Lank, who was a sergeant at the time, he said what the first officer, he didn't even write what he saw. He wrote, Officer Cotard said it was a black strap. Officer Cotard was the one who said that 4 different things: a string or a rope or a strap or a belt. So he doesn't even say what he saw. He's the head of detectives.
Yeah.
He was the supervisor on scene. These 4 men couldn't say what the ligature was tied with. That was one of my first indications. Once I read those reports, I'm like, the Canton PD stinks. There's something rotten there.
So what I'm guessing, Mizzy, is, was there any indications on her neck? Like, so they just found the ligature. They didn't see any like strangulation marks, correct? So he probably had that thing and just put it around her neck.
But there were signs of a struggle.
There was.
Yes. Okay. She had abrasions on her nose.
Wow.
She had an indentation on her upper chest. So you would assume it's like this area is your upper chest. An indentation of the buckle from the strap. And the pathologist who did the autopsy for the FBI, or the Fed, I should say, he said it was blunt force trauma. So I don't know if he punched her with it or if it was he was on like with his knee in her back and he had her pressed into the ground, and that's how she got the scrapes on her nose.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah,
and so they should have saw that indentation, and the buckle that did the indentation wasn't here. It was up by her right ear.
Oh.
So that should have been a clear indication that she didn't do it. And also they missed. See, this is how bad they were at the crime scene. They missed a necklace that her grandmother gave her. It was a pink flamingo necklace that a family member found. It was on the floor, broken, and her clumps of hair were in it. That was another sign of a struggle. Wow. And they said, no signs of struggle. She did it herself. And she had that was Canton Police Department was part of this part. She
had laundry that was in the washer, right? Or it was in the dryer and hadn't started. Both. Yeah, both. Yeah.
Yeah, she had a load in the washing machine and a load in the dryer.
Yeah. That's
and like Lauren had mentioned, she made a bunch of phone calls that morning. She was called to get a pregnancy photo shoot done. and she called something else, and she also set up for when she was only 10 weeks pregnant.
Yeah.
But she was setting up all these things for the future.
Yeah.
That's not an indication that you killed yourself. She set it up for somebody to take care of her cats. So she already set up, and so that's also another indication. So she's setting up for when she goes and has the baby to take care of her cats. But if she was going to kill herself, she would have set up for her cats to have somebody to take care of them. Yeah. Like she would have dropped her cats off somewhere because she loved her cats.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, there was another. This isn't something that they might not have known, but it's out there, so they should have known. She was 10 weeks pregnant, and Valentine's Day was in 2 weeks. And she was going to announce that to the world that she was pregnant. And she had a friend of hers paint on a canvas my own very little Valentine, and she like painted like baby things on it and said, "I'm pregnant." You know, that was going to be her. She was going to post it on Facebook to, you know, it was her birth announcement, like saying, "Hey, that," you know, to make her announcement that she's pregnant. Yeah. And her plan to do that was on Valentine's Day. So she already had a friend paint that. Her friend was also making her baby clothes. So she was planning for the future. Wow. She had just gotten a baby carriage. She had tons of baby clothes all over her apartment. She had just gotten a car seat. And so it's like, come on. She was planning for this child, planning for the future. In a breakup, and Matthew had broken up with her many times over text, over the phone, you know. So why did he have to be there that night on a snowy night when his wife is in the hospital to break up with her? Yeah. Because he had to be there to murder her.
Because they tried to say, oh, sorry, what?
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, didn't they try to say that Matthew went up to break up with her and it caused her to get extremely upset, and that's why she, you know, killed herself? But all those things you pointed out, she was so excited for this baby. I don't think it mattered to her whether she was with Matthew or not with Matthew, or whether he was involved or not. She was going to have that baby, and she wanted that baby. So none of it makes sense.
She told a coworker that she, you know, wasn't sure if the father was going to be around. So she was going to plan to do it on her own if she had to. She was also planning ahead to get a bigger apartment for her and the baby. Yeah. So everything was forward looking, planning. She was about to start nursing school in the spring. Like, there are no indications that she was gonna kill herself.
So Lori in the chat makes a good point, and I'm going to add something to that too. She says cleaning her car out to get the brush for the snow is a good indicator too that she didn't take her life. Or how about this? She ate that night too. Usually people that are going to probably kill themselves are not worrying about eating or drinking anything because they know that they're ultimately going to end up taking their life. Let's go to the conclusion here of what what Canton PD came up, and then I do want to play that video of the Sandra question from the public meeting in the other day, and then we'll wrap up on that at the end. So it says, conclusion: on February 4th, 2021, Canton PD police officers conducted the initial response to the Sandra Birchmore crime scene and followed all I gotta stop. I gotta laugh. Followed all procedures related to crime scene preservation. But they literally just said in the fucking recommendations before that you need to take proper crime scene photos and secure the crime scene. But they're saying they followed all the procedures. Okay. Canton PD detectives conducted follow-up investigations with Mass State Police detectives on February 6, 2021 at 3307 Windsor Woods, and received critical information from witnesses. As a result of the investigation efforts, investigators identified Stoughton police officer Matthew Farwell was present as Miss Birchmore's at Miss Birchmore's apartment on the evening of February 1st, 2021. Further, witness interviews revealed that Farwell was involved in a long-standing intimate relationship with Birchmore. How about they put in there that he was fucking grooming her at 14, 15 years old, that he was a predator? We'll leave that out in the conclusion. Chief Rafferty advised that the audit team, after February 6, 2021, Canton PD relinquished all investigative authority to Sandra Birchmore's death investigation of the Mass State Police in Norfolk District. Yep, let's just wipe our hands of it. You take it now. So, Mizzy, final thoughts on that?
Yeah. Like I said at the beginning, they are the ones who set the stage for it being a suicide.
Yeah.
The first ones to say it out of their mouths. They're the ones who disgustingly told her aunt in the most obnoxious way, that she killed herself. And they're the ones who set the stage for this all to continue. And, yes, they were not on the case after the 6th, but they were crucial in the case from the
very beginning.
And yes, they didn't take photos, but it's also missing crucial information, saying there was no signs of a struggle when there were. They said there were no injuries. Her nose had abrasions on it.
Right.
How would her nose have an abrasion on it if she did this to herself? Why would she have a mark on her chest, an indentation of that buckle? So that means they called it a blunt force trauma. So that means either there was a force that hit her, or he was kneeling on her, pushing her body into it to create this mark. And they missed the necklace. The necklace is such a crucial part of it, part of the struggle. And nobody there, there were, on the 6th, there were 3 Canton police officers. Sergeant Lank, former officer Jonathan McCourt, and Detective Kevin Albert. None of those 3 officers said, what the fuck, she is in a seat. How the fuck did she do this? Nobody stopped, and none of the Massachusetts State Police stopped and said, how the fuck did she do this? How do you hang yourself in a seated position?
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. Marve says, my police department had an audit after finding some similar but groomed for profit. Audit companies are always past law enforcement. Audit is to calm the public, finding for PD what the town wants. Yeah. It's true.
Something I was thinking about, how all those officers arrived on scene and said it was a suicide. As a police officer, you see some pretty horrible things, and I'm sure they had all been called to scenes of suicides in their careers previously. And it just is wild to me that you wouldn't think, wow, this is very out of the ordinary. I haven't seen this before, or, this doesn't make sense with my experience. That's just makes you think, like you said, something stinks in Canton.
I agree. Let's go to the Saturday public forum. And ironically, the first question was by someone, and they talked about Sandra Birchmore's case. I got to boost the sound because it was very low. So I'm going to turn up my booster here, and we'll play this really quick.
One in each of the aisles here for Canton residents, and one for anybody over here on my left or your right. And once again, when I recognize you at a number microphone, you can begin with your question, and I will.
Real quick. I mean, Krista, that's the $1 million question. Why didn't they talk about the missing text message, or why didn't they talk about the text messages?
The lights here going, and I think it may turn yellow at 1 minute as opposed to 30 seconds. So we'll see how this works. Microphone number 2, please, and your name and your town, please.
Hi, I'm Ashley Bell. I live in Canton. So in the beginning of the report, I think it was under policies, under recommendation 6, I noticed that the audit states that a detective in the Sandra Birchmore case had written that it was suicide in his notes, but you guys had said that she had been killed by strangulation. I just wondered what made you decide to say that, since the Massachusetts medical examiner hasn't officially changed the cause of death in her autopsy report. So I just wanted to see where you guys were. Also, one more question. Would you have wanted this audit to happen if this exact situation was happening in your town? Would you have voted yes for the audit?
Well, let me answer the first question first. When we were hired to review policy and procedure in relation to crime scene responses from the Canton Police Department. Sandra
Okay, then why are you commenting on social media posts and stuff? He literally just set the tone. He literally just set his own tone, and they contradicted themselves. He just contradicted himself again. And they do that a lot in this audit. A lot in this audit. He just said we were hired to come in and look at policy and procedure, but they write up this whole section about the Free Karen Reid movement and this audit are harassing everybody. Oh my God. Oh, the humanity. Deal with it, bro. I deal with shit on a daily basis. You know how many fucking people attack me for having this platform? I get attacked daily. People fucking hate me. But you know what I do? Oh, well, I mean, you're trained for that. You're trained to take shit from people in the public. It's what you're there for. People are going to fucking scream at you. People are going to say things, you know, and it comes from all walks of life. But they wanted to get that in there before Karen Reid's case started. That's why they wanted to get all that shit in there to clean up the Canton PD and go, well, they're not at fault and everything. It's just the people around us. They're the ones that are attacking us. They're the ones that are coming after us. It doesn't have anything to do with us. We did everything okay. We're okay. Sorry, my rant.
You're fine.
I want to go back
Would
here a
have
little
voted yes
bit.
for the audit.
Well, let me answer the first question first. When we were hired to review policy and procedure in relation to crime scene responses from the Canton Police Department. The Sandra Birchmore case was one of the cases that we reviewed police reports on. Numerous police reports that we reviewed, probably 7. Several detectives that responded on February 6th in the second call, and I think there were at least 5 police reports written on February 4th when the responding officers found her. We delineated in the report that one of the detectives inadvertently wrote suicide. No detective would purposely write that when the ME's report had not come back yet, even though the ME's report came back with that finding. I spoke to the detectives. The first ME report came back as the Commonwealth came back that it was a suicide. But he wrote the report prior to that. We had discussions with the detective lieutenant, who was a sergeant at the time, and you know, it was written. I don't think it was written purposely. And to your point on the note on.
Sorry, everybody. This got a little wacky here with there. There we go.
Noted that the Stone police officer Matthew Farrell was later indicted for the strangulation. That was from the indictment from the federal government, from the United States Attorney's Office. That's why that was written in there.
Okay, and I think there was a second question.
Oh, the second question, I'm not really sure. I mean, I'm a lifelong police officer in federal agency. I spent 35 years in law enforcement, my first 9 years, and local law enforcement. I was a police officer and detective in Providence before I went on with DEA, where I spent 27 years. I'm not so sure I would have. I don't know. Is my answer. I'm not sure.
Thank you.
Of course you don't know, because what happens when you do an audit where you hold people accountable or you hold people to policy and procedure? They don't want that to come out. They didn't want any of it. Like, I just like I can't sort my brain through this. It's like it's just a major, it's a 206 page report of contradictions. It didn't really get anywhere. It just left people with in the town of Canton with more questions. I mean, that's what this did. They spent $200,000 to have people come in, and they're supposed to be completely independent. And they sat there with Chief Rafferty for what 10 or 12 weeks and heard her fucking influence over this. And it just left people with more questions. I don't know. I give up. I can't anymore on this. Ladies, how you feeling?
I mean, think of it. A young woman is murdered in their town, and they repeated, I can't even say it.
Repeatedly.
But I don't know if that's what I was meaning to say. Anyway, over and over again, disrespect her.
Mm-hmm.
When the FBI and DOJ charged him, they have never made a statement. They didn't even have to make a statement, saying that they did wrong. They could have made a statement saying, we are so happy that the FBI got a murderer off the street, or got Matthew Farwell off the street. The public is safer with him off the street. They didn't even say anything. And it's like they gave this young woman 3 pages. 3 pages.
Yeah.
It's a joke.
Yeah. How about putting something in there like, yeah, and this guy groomed her for years, at age like Mizzy, was there rumors that it started at like 13 or 14 years old? I mean, I've heard something like that too. Is there any credence to that?
It started when she was 12. They started grooming her at 12.
Unreal.
And the assault started when she was 15.
Unreal.
I believe she was almost 13, but it started with the FBI said it started. I was under the impression that it started at 13, but the FBI said it started at 12.
Calling it a long-standing intimate relationship is such an injustice for what it was.
That's
Exactly.
gross.
It was not an intimate relationship. It was
that's
a grooming relationship.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a very good point.
It's a gross misrepresentation.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty gross. Yeah. So, I mean, I just, when I look at this whole thing, now that I've really got my teeth into it and read through it and absorbed the 206 pages, I'm like, yeah, I mean, they just basically came in, and Scott McGinnis said it here in the chat. I'm going to use his words, ball washed the Canton Police Department, tricked the citizens of Canton, the town of Canton, tricked you. Your ass got tricked. You gave these goons $200,000 to come in and essentially listen to the people running, the people running Canton Police Department, and just what is that thing? Do as I say. Just do as I say. Just put this in your notes, and we'll just make this all go away, and people will be happy that it just got done. You're going to get fucking people at the next select board meeting and say, well, calm down. We had the audit. We have the answers now. We had the audit. You're going to get those morons that step up and say that. Yep. But did this really ever prove anything? Yeah, well, it did a couple of things. It shows that Canton Police Department doesn't follow policy and procedure. They break a lot of them. And they don't certainly know how to investigate fucking crime scenes. That's what we proved here. And then everything in between, the other 90% that's in there is all fluff. And then just to come back with the attack on the influencers and social media posts and all that, it's so stupid. It had nothing to do with what their job was to go there and do. So I don't know. That's my final words on all that.
I think there is stuff though that Karen's team can pick out of that.
Oh, I'm sure.
Even though Brennan will say, "Oh, there was no corruption."
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Give
I
me a
agree.
break.
I agree. Scott says it's so frustrating. It is. It's super frustrating. But Sophie saying great show tonight with some amazing guests. I appreciate that. And I think on that thought, we are going to end tonight. It's getting late here. It's like 10 p.m. I didn't realize it was that late. But I want to thank both of my guests this night tonight for jumping in. Mizzy, you are the encyclopedia of Sandra Birchmore, and I appreciate it. And I appreciate everything that you have done for her to keep her case alive. And I know that you will stick all the way through to the end to get these 3 animals off street. We got one of them in jail now. We need to get the other 2. And again, I'm going to look into this camera. Please, if you have been victimized by either one or even the animal that's in jail right now, please step forward. They need that information. Don't be afraid. It's okay. Go to the FBI. If you don't trust your local police department, call someone in the FBI. They will listen to you. They will talk to you, and you can do it totally anonymous. And there's probably numbers that you can call too, anonymous numbers, to get those that information out there. I urge everybody to come forward, because if believe me, they're doing this again. It might not be to the extreme they were, but in some ways they are doing this, and it's only going to be a matter of time when a predator strikes again. It happens all the time. So that's kind of my final thought. Lauren, any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Just thank you for letting me hop on tonight. It was great to
Yeah.
chat with Mizzy. She, like you said, she's the encyclopedia of the Sandra case.
Yes.
And it's so intertwined with the Karen case. Like, it's the same players, like the corruption, like it's just so important to understand that this goes beyond just Karen and John and Canton. It's Stoughton, it's the MSP, it's all of them. So thank you for giving us your time tonight, Mizzy. It's great to chat with you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. What was I going to say? Please make sure to smash that like button. Please subscribe if this is your first time over here on the channel. Comment down below. Let us know how you're feeling about this. And we will be back. We'll be back soon. I appreciate everybody jumping in here tonight on this edition of Let's Talk Live. Thank you for both of my guests for jumping on, my co-host here for the Super Sunday show that's been doing a great job with me. And I promise next Sunday I will have my microphone turned on, because every Sunday show we do, my mic is always muted. But I will get that squared up. So thank you everybody for being here. I appreciate the support. Oh, I did have one Cash App come through. I want to just read really quick before we go off air. Let's see. Who was it? Chad, thank you so much for the $5. This is for the great reporting, LTL Media. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right, everybody. I'm going to hit the outro. Everybody have a great night. And we'll talk to you soon. Peace.